debilitating tech outages without experiencing one of our own. Our thanks to yes, nice job on your part, by the way, troubleshooting.
Yeah, people are like, are you with Rogers? No,
we're not.
We're actually not.
This is another telecom giant that just let us down and bumped us off the air as we're in the midst of a wonderful conversation with Erica Ifill and Mo Amir, joining us from Ottawa and Vancouver, respectively. Back with them in just a second. If you're tuning in on the podcast, you'll not have noticed even a blip on the radar, which is, I guess, one of the benefits of downloading the podcast a little bit later on in the day. Everything is fine. Hey, listen, we're grateful to have the sponsors that we do that make sure that, hey, we do what we can to stay on the air every single day, and that includes the amazing team at Park Power. This is a small business providing utilities across the province, electricity, natural gas, and internet, going up against the big guys. What do they offer that the big companies can't? Well, it's simple, a personal connection here. They care about the communities where they live and work, and that includes looking out for your best interests. When it comes to, for example, getting scammed, that's right, you hear about this new Government of Alberta electricity rebate program. Well, there's a phishing scam. There's several phishing scams out there Park Power wants you to know about. Check out their latest blog post at parkpower.ca. When you take your business over to Park Power, make sure you sign up using the promo code 2022-REAL TALK. That'll knock $70 off your first bill. Our friends at Infinity Healthcare understand the stress that comes with trying to find a perfect fit for home care for your loved ones. They know that oftentimes home care that just comes as part of the deal doesn't work because there can be language barriers, there can be cultural sensitivities, there can be special needs. They have a personality matching service that makes sure that your loved one is paired up with a caregiver that's a perfect fit for them. You can learn more about it at infinity-8.ca. And don't forget they're hiring too. Are you an RN, an LPN that's looking for a change of pace, looking for a new way to bring your talent to the table? Infinity Healthcare could be a great fit for you. We mentioned Kubi Renewable Energy and how proud we are to partner with them as they continue to provide solar energy solutions to power your life. They're working out of their home offices in Kamloops, BC, and Edmonton, Alberta. Solar installations in the agricultural, industrial, commercial, and most frequently residential sectors across Western Canada. Get your free solar quote today at kubienergy.ca and ask them about that $40,000 interest-free loan. The federal government's just made that available. It means solar is a whole lot more accessible to a lot more people. Friday is fast approaching, and that means another edition of Trash Talk presented by our partners at Local Environmental Services. Some people say it's only garbage. Not to them. They believe that communities deserve better. Better service, better prices, more support for local causes. Local Environmental can show you how they can help. Check out localenvironmental.ca today. And don't forget, send us your rant, your rave, your gripe, the thing you've just got to get off your chest to talk at ryanjesperson.com. If you're one of those that's right now keeping an eye on gas prices, how could you not be? Erica was talking about those just a short while ago, and maybe you're looking to find something a little more fuel efficient. We recommend you start your search at St. Albert and Sherwood Dodge. Yeah, they've got all the big trucks that'll help you pull your holiday trailers. They've got the SUVs, the most popular and highest selling SUVs in the market over the past number of decades. That's, of course, the Jeep Grand Cherokee, but a ton of fuel efficient options as well. My personal recommendation is that Jeep Wrangler 4xE, the electric Jeep Wrangler. Unbelievable ride with the classic Jeep styling, but all the newest technology. The best selection in the province is at Sherwood and St. Albert Dodge. You'll find them under the sponsors tab on our website at ryanjesperson.com. Erica Ifill's been hanging out with us, the journalist, the economist based out of Ottawa. Mo Amir also making his Real Talk debut today, the host of This is VANCOLOUR, joining us from Vancouver. Thanks to both of you for sticking around through that slight interruption in our technical presentation. It's great to have both of you sticking around. Hey, Mo, let's get to this because I know your province is playing host right now to Canada's premiers. It's their annual meeting. It's being chaired by your premier, John Horgan, who stepped to the podium with Quebec's premier yesterday, talking about the priorities and what the leaders of Canada's provinces and territories are looking to achieve, talking to the federal government. Here's a portion of what he had to say. John Horgan basically talking about how healthcare is the number one priority of Canada's premiers right now. They say they need more cooperation from Ottawa. And of course, that all starts with funding. Mo, is that the top storyline right now that people in British Columbia are talking about? You think healthcare is their number one concern?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think there's two number one concerns, and they're interchangeable in their priorities. The first is affordability, particularly housing, and that's been going on for a few years now, or maybe a decade. But on top of that, it's absolutely healthcare. About 1 million British Columbians do not have a family doctor. There are wait times up to 2 hours, sometimes even longer at walk-in clinics. This is a very serious issue that's affecting wide swaths of the population. Even if you have a family doctor, as I do, sometimes it takes 2 to 3 weeks to even get an appointment. You call it a shortage, call it a broken model, whatever it is, British Columbians are absolutely frustrated. In talking to cabinet ministers and talking to opposition MLAs, I can tell you that doctors, family doctor shortages, and housing and affordability as a whole are the biggest issues in BC. And so I think there are a lot of British Columbians who maybe don't, they're not on Twitter and they're not following politics as closely, but they're scratching their head going, we spent all this money during the pandemic. So where are the new health facilities? Where are the new care centers? Where are the new hospitals? And this is going to be a big issue for the BC NDP. And so part of it, I think, is legitimate, where they are asking for help from the federal government. But then part of it is also deflecting a lot of criticism that they are facing within the province to say that, we're trying to do everything we can, but we need more help from the feds. And I think Premier Horgan is definitely trying to soften a lot of the critiques from opposition for the next leader as well. So there's many levels to this. It is absolutely a legitimate problem. And, John Horgan, I think, is trying to save face and maybe trying to pass the buck a little bit to the feds.
I don't know about you, Erica, but when you hear Mo's frank assessment of essentially the reality right now, and you can almost, I know, Mo, you'd say this, you could almost sort of take what you talked about and apply it to any jurisdiction in the country right now. And a huge issue is staffing, right? Same in Ontario, same in Alberta, rural doctors, nurses, and the like. A lot of people. And I guarantee you that, because we hear from them all the time, healthcare professionals, some of them are still just clinging by their fingertips, and they're going to see this thing through. But I don't know how much runway they're going to see left with regards to, especially those maybe in the latter stages of their career that understandably, maybe the what do I say here? The gentle way to say it might be exhaustion, and probably the more realistic or accurate phrase might be PTSD that a lot of healthcare professionals are going to be dealing with. And then you look at this next generation. Trust me, I'm not trying to chase anybody away from a career in healthcare, but I can't imagine a lot of, people coming out of high school, 18, 19, 20 years old right now going, you know what I noticed over the past couple of years? What I'd love to do is go work in healthcare right now. Well, we need those talented professionals, but boy, oh boy, I bet you that not just retention, but recruitment's going to be a big challenge over the next few years.
Almost definitely, especially with, in Ontario, we had Bill 124, which capped the increase in wages. It was, the NDP called it a wage suppression bill, which I think it was. And so there's not much incentive to go into nursing or medicine or anything like that, because we didn't treat them very well when we needed them. So why should we expect people to choose to go into those professions? But it goes back to the bigger question about our public services and how much we are willing to save and put forward, not only to the construction of, or not only to the capital costs, so not only to the construction of new facilities, new equipment, et cetera, but the staffing, the operations is a huge problem. The family health network is still lagging. And there are, I think what we need to start talking about is mental health and how we're going to support mental health in a public way through our healthcare system. And what that cost is going to be and what the expectations are, because I feel like we're also a country going through PTSD in some sort because of this pandemic, but definitely our healthcare workers and our teachers too have really, and a lot of other, essential workers have really, really picked up. They really took one for the team in this country, and we haven't really done anything to make their lives better.
Yeah, I'm sitting there, and as you're talking and you go healthcare workers, I go, yep. You go teachers, I go, yep. And then I'm sitting there and thinking about like small business owners, yep. And it just feels like everybody got kicked in the teeth. Repeatedly. And you sort of wonder what the future is going to look like. Mo, in the context of the BC NDP, John Horgan, who I think it's, and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, you're the one that lives there. You're the one that comments on it all the time, on a daily basis almost. In my mind, a relatively popular premier, right? I mean, I think like he saw a dip in popularity recently in some polling, but generally speaking across the country, I think he's perceived to be one that has the respect of a decent number of people in his home province. How do you think that the BC NDP's legacy through COVID will be assessed by the general population, and what could that mean for not just the leadership race when it comes to replacing John Horgan as leader of the BC NDP, but the next time that BC goes to the polls to find out who's going to be its next premier?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. I think first and foremost, when we're talking about Premier John Horgan, absolutely, he is very popular. I think part of that is his personal brand, because when you look at pandemic response, there were a lot of similarities with Ontario and Alberta, and yet Premier Horgan really did maintain a high level of popularity. We know that BC withheld a lot of data. They're called the most secretive government in all of Canada. So there's a lot to criticize there. And the reality is we also have the other public health emergency, which is the drug poisoning deaths emergency, which has been going on for quite some time. And so there's a lot to pick at this government, and yet John Horgan has been, made of Teflon in a way. And weirdly enough, the one hit that he took during the pandemic was over this controversy about funding a museum in Victoria. That was the issue that seemed to rile people up more so than, the doctor shortages or the drug poisoning crisis or a variety of other issues that I think are probably more important to the province, just in my opinion. And so the test is going to be, how much of the BC NDP's popularity is tied to the John Horgan brand, and how much of it is intrinsically just people happy with the BC NDP. And I think, like most things, it's probably a mix of both. But for the new leader, I don't foresee a particularly competitive race. I think the BC NDP politically have been very good in keeping everyone on the same page. Last time that they had a leadership race, it was just John Horgan. Mike Farnworth withdrew and there was no other candidates. I think we'll see a similar situation here. We already have people like my colleague at Czech News, Rob Shaw, declaring this race over, even though no one has officially declared that they're running. Yeah, he said that, BC Attorney General David Eby is the shoe-in. I think that's sort of the consensus. I don't see anything to say the contrary. I think the names that have been thrown out there have either explicitly come out and said, we're not running, or they've privately said it. So I think David Eby is kind of positioned to be the next leader. And I think his challenge will be taking on a lot of these major issues, including doctor shortages, including affordability, including things like funding for kids with autism. There are a lot of issues on the table that he's going to have to deal with. And at the same time, I think for regular British Columbians, David Eby is going to basically have to introduce himself and imprint his own brand that hopefully resonates in the same way as John Horgan, but obviously tailored towards him. And I know I rant a lot. I talk a lot.
Hey man, this is what we do.
But I think the thing that is often underappreciated with John Horgan is the political branding. And that's not to say it's inauthentic, but I think there was a concerted effort when John Horgan became the leader to brand him as, premier dad, as this fatherly figure, the guy you want to have a beer with. You can call it populist on one hand or folksy on the other, because originally the BC Liberals, who were in government before, they were trying to brand Horgan as this like angry, hot-tempered, not fit for office person. And the BC NDP very strategically and very consciously spun that and said, well, no, he's angry because British Columbians are angry. So he's angry on your behalf.
Well done.
And they did an incredible job. And you know, I think that's why he's enjoyed so much popularity throughout his tenure as premier. And to the BC NDP's credit, I think in their first term, they were doing politics slightly differently. I think there's a lot more to criticize in this second term. And David Eby, if he becomes the next leader, or whoever becomes the next leader, will have to wear and answer a lot of that. And so, again, going back to the meeting with the premiers right now, spinning a lot of this to say, well, it's actually the federal government's fault and we're trying our best and we're fighting for you, I think also has a political strategy to it as well.
Erica, I know with Mo's observation of the messaging around John Horgan, or the strategy there with regards to explaining the passion, a friend of mine who went on to, by the way, he's a Vancouver police officer, went to university together. He used to wear this T-shirt when he'd work out that said, "I yell because I care." And I thought that was kind of an interesting T-shirt, an interesting sentiment. But what Mo said resonated with you, and I wonder if that's because, did you see that same playbook essentially win Doug Ford the most recent Ontario election, where it was this really remarkable connection, I think, with the people, where he adopted this kind of aw shucks mentality and started talking to the folks all the time, and he really became kind of less combative. He didn't fuck around with the convoy stuff. He didn't get himself messed in the muck and mire that could have been a real liability, and boy, did it ever pay off. I mean, a bigger majority than he had heading in.
You can say fuck on this show?
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
No, nobody told me that.
Well, how different would the interview have been?
Oh, well, we'll see now, won't we? I think Doug Ford, here's the thing. Politics is a people's game, okay? As soon as you have a candidate that's able to connect with people, I don't care how smart or capable the next candidate is. Like the former is going to overtake the latter, basically. And Doug Ford has the ability to talk to you like normal. Remember how I was talking about how how it's great to be on Alberta media because it's like you're talking to people really. That's what Doug Ford does, right? He just talks to people normally. He has this aw shucks. He's not aggressive, right? Because I feel like Ontario does not like aggressive. I feel like Ontario doesn't do aggressive very well. And Doug Ford, I always question his leadership and stuff like that. But if you compare him to Andrew Horwath and Stephen Del Duca, I almost forgot that man's name. Stephen Del Duca was robotic. He was robotic and off-putting. And Andrea Horwath just, I don't know, she didn't seem real a lot of times. So yeah, I think that's helped Doug Ford a lot. I think his ability to make nice with Trudeau when he had to, and Chrystia Freeland when he had to, also helped him. He looked like the guy who wasn't into the ideology of a Jason Kenney. He looked like the guy who could come to the table and reason with the other side, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, and one of the other things that Doug Ford did very well, especially in the middle of affordability, is that he took away user fees. So user fees like licensing and stickers and stuff like that, it's little, it's small, it doesn't really do anything structurally, but people, number one, people feel like you're listening to them.
Yeah.
Like you get them, like you get their pay, like you get what they care about, number one. So that connects you to them more. And number two, it's not going to cost you a lot in terms of your donors, for example, who want to keep the status quo. Do you see what I mean? It's not going to do anything to structurally change their power.
Yeah, Erica brings up some really interesting points. And I think when it comes to speaking to people, the BC NDP have been particularly strong at that, and they've been very good at that. They had a bit of a slip up with, again, this sort of museum debacle, but in general, they've been very good at understanding where the public mood is. And you're absolutely right, is when you have that person that makes you feel like you're being listened to and is responsive. That goes a long way. And you find it in, as Erica pointed out, the smallest things. One name that was being tossed around for John Horgan's replacement was the mayor of a Vancouver suburb here, Brad West. He's the mayor of Port Coquitlam. And he's an extremely popular mayor and an extremely popular.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's popular in British Columbia. And, he told me this story about, he does a great job as mayor, fundamentally, but he told me this story that he instituted a junk program in Poco. So basically you could put out your couch or fridge or whatever out on the curb on a certain day, and the city will come and pick it up and dispose of it appropriately. And he said, he thought it was just a cool program and they were able to do it. But the love that he got for it, both online, offline calls, people just going out of their way to say, this is the best program ever, you're the best mayor, and just understanding that fundamental need that, for policy wonks might be off the table.
Right.
But for regular people, it goes a long way. And I think when it comes to channeling anger, because there is a lot of anger in this country and a lot of it is warranted, whether it's about healthcare or affordability. When you're in government, you can't be angry because you're in charge, right? So it's a great role to play when you're in opposition, and it's almost an easy role to sort of grandstand on. But I think for the next premier, and even when we've seen cabinet ministers in BC get upset, Mike Farnworth is one in particular. He's the Solicitor General. It's kind of off-putting to the public that's just like, well, you're the one in charge. Like, why are you mad? You're not mad for us. You're the one making the decision. So it's a fine line to play when you have what I would say an angry population, and rightfully angry population, and you're in charge and you're trying to continue to speak to them, but for whatever reason, you can't deliver to their needs immediately.
Well, and this is, it's essentially the conversation that people are having about Pierre Poilievre right now in the campaign. It's an extremely effective campaign. I mean, Jenny Byrne and their team is running an unbelievable campaign. The mastery of the message and of social media and connecting with people and creating this audience and drawing support, like very visible support, and tapping into the anger, the frustration, the energy, the dissatisfaction that people are feeling. The obvious question is, will that translate? Does Mr. Poilievre have the plan? Does he have the leadership ability, to carry out or to deliver on some of these promises? I mean, it's easy to shoot a video in Vancouver and say, look at this, $2 million knockdown. This $2 million doesn't get you anything in Vancouver. Home ownership is a pipe dream for young people and young families. That's all true. But then to say, my government will fix this, people are going to say, well, okay, how? It's like you said, Mo, and it's probably the easiest assertion to make in observing politics, but it's a lot easier to oppose than to govern.
Absolutely. As a sidebar, can I just point out that the woman running Pierre Poilievre's BC campaign, Katie Merrifield, is the most underrated political strategist in the country. And I'm not just saying that because she's my girlfriend. It's true. She is extremely talented. And she's doing a great job here in BC for Pierre Poilievre. I actually attended a couple of Pierre rallies to support Katie. I'm a nonpartisan in that way, but I was there to support her. And I have to say, it was fascinating. The passion in the room, the amount of people in the room. I went to one rally in Vancouver, then one rally a little east of Vancouver in Langley. The Vancouver rally was a little more diverse than I had originally expected it to be. There was a different crowd there, but the passion.
What's the male-female breakdown, would you say?
Pretty even. I didn't think it was completely male-dominated. I think it was a good mix. In general, for a lot of these political rallies, they tend to skew male, but I thought it was a decent mix. And people are angry, and the passion that they have, the hope that they're putting in Pierre Poilievre. I mean, you can judge that whether it's right or wrong, but it's there, it's tangible. And I was in a crowd in Vancouver, so I was being led out the back to kind of get out of the crowd there. And this woman stops me and she grabs my arm and she goes, "Are you working for Mr. Poilievre?" And I go, "Oh, no, not me. I'm just with these folks. I'm just whatever. They're working for Pierre." And she goes, "Well, bless you and bless everyone working for Pierre." And I was, I don't say that disparagingly. I was quite astonished at the mood and the the hopes that people are pinning on him. And it was almost Trudeau-esque, but in a different way. Because I remember in 2015, it was the same idea of renewal and, all our hopes are pinned on this one guy and he's going to fix everything. And you are seeing that in the Pierre rallies. Fun fact, though, the biggest pop at both of those events was the defund the CBC mantra. Pierre says that, and that got the biggest pop in both Vancouver and in Langley, which really surprised me because, he's sloganeering freedom and anti-Trudeau stuff, but it was the defund the CBC that I still find extremely fascinating that resonates with this crowd of people.
It's just low-hanging fruit.
Why though? There's a lot of communities in Canada that wouldn't have any media or journalists.
Well, and Mo,
if it wasn't
I was
for
just,
the CBC.
this was a while ago, but on the the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, I just sat and we I'm not trying to. I don't prefer this phrase, but I'm not trying to virtue signal here. I mean, it's just a fact that we do have the recommendations printed off in our studio, and I'm not going to say I read them every single day, but I want to be familiar with them, and I wanted to familiarize myself with them. And in particular, there's a lot of calls for what they want government to do and what the commission recommended, but for the average ordinary Canadian, there are things, not that you can do, but that we should. The calls to action that as Canadians, we should be familiar with them. And one of them is to adequately and more robustly fund the CBC, and so that these communities can be served, so that these important stories can be told. And one of the things that I would really like to see presented by a journalist or by someone is to challenge these politicians to their face and point out that arguing to defund the CBC is in direct defiance to the recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And I haven't seen anybody answer for that. And I think it's a question that begs to be asked.
I feel like does nobody remember 2015? Does nobody remember this? And that's all I'm seeing. And I'm listening to Mo talk, and all I'm thinking about, this is 2015. This is the US 2015. And, just like people pinned their hopes on Obama, that he was going to fix things, right? They got frustrated. Next thing you know, Trump. It's the same thing. Like you were talking about Trudeau, right? Trudeau, a lot of people pinned their hopes on Trudeau, and he hasn't delivered to a lot of those people. And that creates anger too. The performative nature of this Liberal government creates an anger.
Yeah.
When they don't deliver.
Erica, is there, when you talk about what the Prime Minister or this government has not delivered on, is there one thing where you go, that's an example right there? Is there one thing that's kind of the, you're talking to an Alberta talk host, of course I got to say, what's the burr under your saddle, Erica? What's the one where you go, that's what he didn't deliver on?
One?
Well, is there a prominent one?
Okay, I could start anything. Basically, he uses communities of color and marginalized communities to build his brand and then does nothing for them.
Boom. That's it.
Yeah.
But there's so many issues. Environment is another.
I was going to say climate. And then I'm like, no, that's low hanging fruit.
It is. But I'm not a climate activist by any means, but it is low hanging fruit in the sense that you have this guy virtue signaling over how we need to save the climate. And then you literally have a cabinet minister saying, and I'm paraphrasing here, of course, but, to fight climate change, we need to profit off climate change first. And then we use that money to fight climate change. And it's just just pick a side, either say that, no, we need to provide, cheap fuel for working class people, or don't, or and I think that in BC, we're slightly different, where all three major parties are in favor of the carbon tax. But I actually think that there is somewhat of a progressive argument against the carbon tax, particularly when we talk about places like Metro Vancouver, because you push people out to the suburbs, they still work in the city, and sometimes transit is just not adequate to meet the needs of families, to getting your kids around, or kids to school, or to their activities, to getting to work and back. And we've downloaded these costs onto people, and you have politicians that virtue signal on carbon tax, we're fixing climate change. And it's well, emissions are still going up. And we haven't done anything to either solve the price of gas or to solve, climate emissions, which is a serious problem. And so they want to kind of have their cake and eat it too on so many different issues. I think racial equity is another big issue. And you're right. It's felt like pandering, especially from the prime minister himself, where he speaks in this breathless tone. And this is his super serious voice. And it's like, just talk to me like a human being, man.
I told you about Upper Lower Canada. See, I told you that's how they are.
Luke is watching us right now live on YouTube, and he points out as well, electoral reform was a huge promise made by the prime minister.
Yay!
I will say that's been one of my favorite flip-flops of any politician, because this was, and again, like you, Mo, I'm paraphrasing for sure, but it was pretty incredible. The prime minister, essentially what happens in 2015 leading up to the election, he promises electoral reform, and then the Liberals win, and then he says, well, clearly electoral reform is not a priority anymore because Canadians got the government they want. And so, we're not going to, I'm sitting there going, hang on a second. Hey, wait a second. I don't know about that. But that was another promise I know that a lot of people wanted to see delivery on that they didn't.
Well,
and let's talk about, I was going to say housing as well. Like, again, particularly to BC for many years, it's like we want investment in public housing where teachers, firefighters, policemen, whoever, like people who work can live in the cities that they work in. And, we have so little contribution from the federal government, even when it comes to things like money laundering or changing the rules of speculation. It's like they like to talk about it. And have they actually done anything on this file speaking from British Columbia, have they done anything for BC? I would argue no. And it is just frustrating. And that's why I think you have a lot of people like perhaps Mo Senior who are looking to other parties for some sense of accountability or someone that will at least deliver on these grandiose promises and not just shake your hand, take a photo with you and assume that you're on board with them.
That's a beautiful way of putting it. And I love that you talked about that grandiosity and the idea that, yes, you can have big dreams, but give us a plan, man. Like show us that you can actually deliver. And I think, Mo, what else you brought up that was really good was the accountability piece. We're seeing a government that gets away with a lot. And if it were for COVID, the Liberals would be on track for a scandal every summer.
Yeah.
So I think that all kind of, it works together. And then you have this environment of affordability. I cannot state how important this is in terms of how it is a political cauldron right now. And you have this affordability issue in the background and just on people's minds, and a government that doesn't listen to you, that tells you that COVID is over, that tells you that they're going to claw back CERB, that they got you to apply, they hounded you to apply for CERB, okay? And now they're like, by the way, we're going to claw it back now. Like, there is a loss of trust there. I think there's just this erosion of trust in our institutions and in our political infrastructure. Another point about climate, they want to tax us when it comes to the carbon, fine, but they do not put money back into building the infrastructure so that we can switch, right? When it comes to that part, they want to claim small government.
Yeah.
So if they can't, like Mo said, they can't have their cake and eat it too.
To be clear, did you two know each other before this morning?
No,
we're just Twitter buddies. We're Twitter buddies.
Twitter buddies.
Because I feel there's the vibe that the two of you have known each other for 20 years, and I'm courting you both right now. I feel like this is a baked-in, semi-regular panel. What do you figure, the two of you? I love it. We've got a voice in Ottawa. We've got a voice in Vancouver. We'll get you here on a semi-regular basis, and we'll solve all of Canada's problems. What do you think?
I love this.
We
I
will
love
make
this
all
for
the grandiose
us.
promises. We will work
Yes.
with the people to make this happen.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Good stuff. We're kind of like the broadcasting or podcasting equivalent of the official opposition. It's pretty easy. It's pretty easy for us to solve all the problems.
You know who we are? We're the anti-at-issue panel.
Ooh. Do we want to brand ourselves that way? Erica, you'll never wind up on that issue if you start branding yourself.
I'm not going to wind up on that issue now. With the way I tweet at Andrew Coyne, are you kidding?
Okay.
They're never going to put me on that issue.
I like calling us the unofficial opposition. I think that's a good brand.
Okay, well, this is what
the unofficial opposition.
It's the Unofficial Opposition Round Table. We didn't. What the formula was: talk to Erica Ifill, fit in some advertising reads, and then talk to Mo Amir. Instead, this has turned into and unfolded into one of the most wonderful, spontaneous conversations we've had on the show. The two of you, fast friends, obviously. I know that the audience is going to dig this big time when this podcast drops in just a few minutes. I'm already looking forward to the next time we connect. Make sure you subscribe to the Bad and Bitchy podcast. That's what Erica Ifill co-hosts, and of course you can read her work as well. She does an amazing job. Follow her on Twitter and you'll be able to track it all down at Wicked Chick. And of course Mo Amir, host of This Is VANCOLOUR, getting set. Mo, you're getting set for season 2, right? Coming up on Check TV in the fall.
Yeah, we're just wrapping up season 1, season 2 on Check if you're in BC. It's going to be Thursday nights at 9:00, so we're going to be right after Linda Steele and Jody Vance's new show, aptly titled Steele and Vance. And there are podcast versions of my show as well. Usually we do the TV stuff, and then we record some overtime to have this kind of feel where it's a little more spontaneous and free flow and not bottled into TV segments. So,
okay. So
check out This Is VANCOLOUR as well.
Okay, that's the name of the podcast too. People just search This Is VANCOLOUR.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, this has been so much fun. Thank you to the two of you for doing this. And thanks for sticking around.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we appreciate it. That's Erica Ifill. That's Mo Amir. How much fun was that?
You mean the internet going out? It was horrible.
Yeah, the internet
wasn't
going
any
out.
fun at all, Ryan.
The internet going out wasn't great.
It was the worst thing a technical producer can go through.
That is
losing the internet.
But I wish that people could see. You know what I should do next time is I should just start doing like the behind the scenes. We could do like Instagram live cam or something for people to see you cool as a cucumber, just navigating the technical challenges.
Yeah, I just punched 2 holes in the wall and filled my coffee and reset the router and started my formal lawsuit against TELUS. No, I'm just kidding. I shouldn't have said that.
But you know what it was? I mean,
They're
this
a big
was,
company.
This for us was a.
We enjoy them most of the time.
We don't have to kiss their ass now.
The internet
they screwed us over.
It's very good most of the
time.
time.
But in all honesty, this was for a second you realize like so our signal just drops, which isn't great when you're doing a live streaming show. People on the podcast will not have noticed any interruption. As a matter of fact, thanks to the magic of editing, this spontaneous chat is the first that they will be hearing of it. They were not aware of any interruption.
They're not going to hear this.
But at the same time, you're like for people over the weekend, over the past few days, all these businesses, I referenced farmers markets yesterday, but all of these entrepreneurs, small businesses, big businesses for that matter, when tech goes down, you are handcuffed.
You're helpless. And we knew it was the internet today because like the TV goes off.
Everything went down. Everything shut down. Yeah.
Our Mixler audio goes off. Our YouTube goes off. Our OBS, it's everything at once. And it really, you're just like,
it's like there was that master switch just powered down.
I'm telling you who has the real power is these internet companies. They're the ones who really,
Well, and interesting conversations happening in Ottawa right now is because it takes something like this. I'm not talking about our outage today, but this sustained outage over the past number of days.
It was really scary.
For millions of people to wake up and say, wow, like not only what is happening here, but what could happen. Do you know what I'm saying?
So now the wife is like, can you just keep $1,000 cash on hand? I'm like, I think we need more than that. Like, what if it's down a week? What if it's down
yeah, but carrying a bunch of cash, having a bunch of cash with you is like having a bunch of booze or weed with you at the same time. If you have a ton of it, you're going to smoke and drink it all. You know, you got to just get it in little chunks, just little chunks.
Some of us are responsible. We don't go around,
cannot relate.
Throwing $1 bills at everyone like you. No.
Speaking of weed, have you checked out the new Dairy Queen Summer Blizzard menu? I was just looking for that open window. And I don't think our friends at the Dairy Queens of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park will mind. As a matter of fact, if you're out walking the dog, you got the sunglasses on, the sun's hitting your face, why not visit your local Dairy Queen? Palisades, Nemeo, Newcastle, Westmount, and Baseline Road. There is no summer treat quite like the Dairy Queen Blizzard. Now, up for debate, of course, the greatest Blizzard flavor of all time. There's all the classics. I mean, you can't go wrong with Oreo. You're not going to go wrong with Score. But their summer selections are here for a limited time. Why not treat yourself? Treat the kids today to a Dairy Queen Blizzard in Northwest Edmonton or Sherwood Park. You let them know that Real Talk sent you. And for those of you that love getting outside and enjoying the backyard, but maybe don't enjoy the laying the sod yourself, building the deck yourself, constructing the retaining wall yourself, plumbing in the outdoor kitchen yourself, may we recommend a call to Eden Landscaping. Visit them online today. You can check out their services, their portfolio, some of the projects they've worked on at landscapeedmonton.ca, bringing outdoor spaces to life, whether it's ultra-modern, natural beauty, stunning stonework that you're looking for, irrigation, lighting, water features. They do it all, and they've been earning the return business and referrals of their clients for more than 2 decades. Eden Landscaping is at landscapeedmonton.ca.
Brandy on the chat says her TELUS went down at the exact same time.
Is that right?
For about 5 minutes. Yeah, read on the chat there. So,
oh, come on. What is TELUS trying to keep up with? The Rogers has been getting all the buzz, and TELUS is going to knock out its customers' supports today just to make sure that people are talking about them too.
Well, Rogers says it was an update to one of the core pieces of their internet infrastructure that caused all this, right?
What do you think the true story is? What's the true story?
Really, did you really just update a router in a room? And
I'm picturing a Homer Simpson type employee, like Homer at the nuclear power plant. There's some guy, some Homer Simpson type guy at Rogers HQ that pushed the wrong button or plugged the wrong thing into the wrong thing.
It's me, the guy who's I'll update that thing next week for Ryan. I don't want to do it right now. It's going to take
the boys are going to be there watching the NHL draft. I got to get myself to the... I don't know what accent that was.
I don't know either.
We'll call it Eastern Canadian. Why am I going there? Every Tuesday... we celebrate innovation. We celebrate people that are making an impact in their community. We celebrate groups that are really achieving remarkable things. We call it The Leading Edge, and it's presented by our friends at Leading Edge Physiotherapy. On The Leading Edge today, did you hear about Peepeepalooza? This is absolutely hilarious. The Leading Edge is always supporting these initiatives that are helping people, oftentimes with challenges that might be flying under the general public's radar. And this is a perfect example. This was organized by Leading Edge and Yo Mama Maternity. The purpose, laugh until you pee, raising awareness for pelvic floor health and therapy. Sometimes people get embarrassed talking about things like incontinence or constipation or the changes of your pelvic floor muscles, maybe after you've welcomed a new baby to the world, right? The Terra Center is a local nonprofit organization providing support and services to teen parents in the community. The Leading Edge specialized pelvic therapist gave an informative session as part of this comedy-driven event on the benefits of treatment options that are widely unknown to the general public. Leading Edge also has a new pelvic health space that opened in their St. Albert, Alberta location with the latest technology helping diagnose and treat pelvic distinctions. Peepeepalooza doing an amazing job, not just raising supplies and support for the Terra Center, but also awareness on a very important subject impacting many, many people across the country. That's why Peepeepalooza is on the leading. It's just so fun to say, and it's also on the Leading Edge. Leading Edge Physiotherapy presenting the Leading Edge every week here on Real Talk. Life shouldn't hurt. Coming up on Wednesday's Real Talk, we have an opportunity to go to New York City. We're going to talk to a psychologist that's been doing a lot of research into the demographic of mass shooters in the United States. What do we know about who these people are? What drives them to that point of mass violence? And what can we as a society do about it? Dr. Fabiana Franco will be our guest live from New York City. Plus, we're going to talk to the traveler, the world traveler that captured that remarkable remarkable ice avalanche video. Harry Shimon will join us live from Kyrgyzstan. That's coming up on Wednesday. We'll see you then.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson. Executive producer, Josh Dunford. Technical producer, John Hicks. General manager, Katie Cook-Shivers. Account coordinator, Lawrence Derlego. Human resources, Lena Shepard. Website design, Mike Johnston. Voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Dwivedi, Ahmed Ali, Brandy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harmon Candola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is the flagship property of Relay Communications Group Incorporated. All rights reserved. For more, check out ryanjesperson.com.